Welcome, Mike. So nice to see you.
Yeah,
Great to have you join us. So Mike Brevik is with us today with Cyberdogz Marketing, and he's a marketing strategist who partners with startups and well-established companies to help grow their professional brands. So for over 20 years, he's been in the print, creative, and marketing industry and spent a decade of that time leading and building e-commerce solutions, social media strategies, and everything in between for two of the Midwest's largest retailers. Building relationships is really his key to how he's worked with several brands like Nike, Jordan, Under Armour, and Harley Davidson, and more along the way. And he knows that what it's really about is creating long lasting connections with consumers. And building these strategic partnerships with clients is central to everything that he's doing. And he chooses to be the ambassador for the brands he serves, that he also supports. And it's his firm understanding of customer relationships being the foundation of the Cyberdogz experience. So, welcome. We were talking in the green room about, you kind of where you're located, and it's been quite dramatic out there. So, glad to hear everybody's safe by you.
yeah. Thank you very much.
So you came to Delegate about 6 months ago, and during that time, we've had Corona, we've had everything happening in Minneapolis, which is near where you live. So let's try to go back before all of that and talk a little bit about what problem you were trying to solve when you came to Delegate.
Yeah, so over the past few years, I've had some really solid growth, and I've had some really good things happen in my business. But what happened then is as I'm focusing on everybody else's businesses and I'm working on the client stuff, I'm kind of forgetting about my own. So some of my systems, some of my documentation, just the little things that I was doing behind the scenes got neglected and started to pile up on me to the point where with the continued growth of the business from 2019 into 2020, I just kind of knew that, man, if I don't get this cleaned up, A, it's going to get worse, but B, how am I going to get to it? Because my business is continuing to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not going to have any more time, basically, is the realization that I came to.
Yeah. I know we work with a lot of different creatives just as customers, and we always can feel if they have process in place or not. And that is equally as important to us as the outcome of the project. So I can understand why, you were aware of that.
Yeah.
So can you share a story or two around how Delegate's been able to help you?
I think the biggest thing is that I'm pretty organized and to some degree OCD on how I do things because it's about efficiency and it's about trying to make smarter decisions and not working as hard at them. But there was a handful of things that I had the concept for, and I think I had a sense of direction, but I just never quite got to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things I said to Delegate and to my team from the beginning is that I have an idea and I have like 10% of it figured out. I don't have time for the other 90. You tell me what's best to kind of proceed with. So they were able to pick up kind of this, half flushed out idea and take it the rest of the way without a lot of direction or without a lot of, brain power coming from me. Because to be honest, there's some of that stuff. I don't really have an opinion on it because I
Sure,
didn't get that far. I don't even know what to compare it to.
sure.
So if you tell me this is the best way and it fits within what I'm currently doing, I'm all for it. And they were able to pick up the ball and just run with it, which is awesome.
Awesome. So can you give an example of one of those processes?
I think the big thing was like documentation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other thing would be just the way projects are managed. So I use an external tool called Red Booth,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd been using it to some capacity, but like anything, I was probably neglecting about 80% of the value or the benefits or features that are provided to me from that tool. So in those two instances, I was able to just kind of pass that off to them and say, here's my process today. And obviously, if you have questions, let me know. But here's my process as it sits today. Here's how I'm doing it and why I'm doing it. from an outside perspective, what am I missing? Like, of the features and benefits that are provided to me, the ones I'm neglecting, which ones would make my life easier? Which ones would make my project smoother? So kind of bringing them in from that perspective, whether it was Red Booth or even just the documents that I use to communicate with my clients and onboard them and whatnot, to be able to give them kind of a you know, half conceptual idea and turn them loose on it, whether it be just a concept or a technology like Red Booth. In those two scenarios, they were able to just fill in the gaps and kind of pick up the ball and run with it, which was great.
Yeah, process I think is really at the heart of, especially as a service business, like what differentiates us is really our process. So I know that, if we're talking branding and the work that you do, a lot of what you do and what I've seen in your work is really about focusing on relationships. So I'm wondering, like, if you're aware of what your process is around how you build strategic partnerships with your clients.
Well, part of it is the relationship side is it's to get inside the brand and to really figure out what makes them tick and why it is what it is. And it sounds a little bit fluffy, but you're getting to know the person and the logic behind why they're developing their business the way they are, why they created it in the first place. So that's a huge part of it. And the other part of it is to be, almost the anti-solution to what they're used to. So less paperwork, an easier process, a cleaner process, a more upfront process that doesn't get bogged down by too many forms, too many processes, too many pieces of red tape. So that's something that I've been focused on since the beginning, but I've been able to even focus on it more so and have almost a sounding board in Delegate to help me work through that to keep it simple.
Yeah, well,
Because that's one thing clients, they don't have time for 25-page agreements, and they don't have time to read all the fine print. And if there's not trust there, and if there's not a relationship there, they're signing their life away and they don't even know what they're signing. Well, I don't want to be a proponent of that. And to be honest, I don't want to put them in a position to even have to make that call, because in their minds, they just want the work done. They just want somebody to come in and help them, and somebody to take the problem away, and somebody to solve it.
Yep.
So to make it simple and to keep the client, in a comfortable place as just the client, like, let's just keep them doing what they do, and then we come in and do what we do, and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah, totally understand. So when you work with your clients, how do you help them unpack their story and their purpose when it comes to their brand?
There's a few little tools and I'll call them forms or onboarding forms that we go through that help kind of flush that out. But then from that, it's a series of conversations and questions, and just talking to them about it and asking them to qualify some of their answers. What do you mean by that? I think one of the common mistakes and one of the situations we have to bust through from time to time is the easy answer for a lot of these clients is to just throw their core values out there, or their mission statement, because it's the easy button. Well, here's our mission statement. Here's our core values. Go away. I mean, they just want to answer the question and move on. Well, I have to deconstruct what that is, what that means, and how it truly pertains to the brand, because I'm all for mission statements and core values, but that doesn't necessarily always lend itself or explain why the brand is the brand.
Yeah, we run on EOS, so our core values are a big part of the DNA of the company. So, like, I totally get what you're saying, and the way that we've been doing it, once a week on our huddles, we do 15-minute weekly team huddles. Whoever is hosting that week gives an example of how they've seen the core values play out in their teammates and their work with clients, and I think that really helps keep it fresh. It helps people remember, like, that's what we're here for, and it also helps us, when we're dealing with a disciplinary or performance related thing, we're always tying it back to the core values. So, I love to hear that that's sort of where you're starting with clients, because it is the foundation.
Yeah, and it's about going one layer beyond that. So like core values and, kind of as you behave, so to speak, when you're out in the world, like that's a huge part of it. But why you behave that way and why you develop that code of conduct and why you have those core values and what they mean to you, that's kind of the underbelly of why a brand is a brand and why it is what it is, and just the uniqueness of it. So like when people talk about authenticity and branding, it's that piece that's under the surface that we got to get to that.
Hmm. Cool. And so, what are some tips around how you can make brands sticky, so to say, where they stay in people's minds and they choose them over and over again?
I think there's a lot of ways, whether it's being clever, whether it's, the design and the look and the feel. Um, I think it all plays together. I always use the analogy that it's like a good soup or a good hot dish or however you want to say, is that you have all these independent ingredients, and all those ingredients, they have their own power and they have their own flavor and they have their own benefits, but it really doesn't work right or work the way you want it to until you put them all in the soup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the identity, the branding, the voice, the look and feel, the way you position it, whether you're on social media versus website versus all of these different pieces are the ingredients that go in that soup and how they play together. That's where the synergy and the strategy comes in on the branding. Now, the low hanging fruit of some of this stuff, and this is where I would, to continue the analogy, this is where you go from it being soup to it being chicken soup versus beef barley or whatever, is
Right.
that's where you have your brand identity and that's the driving force behind it. And branding matters as much as people want to downplay the value of how powerful branding can be. Branding matters, but also within that brand, the quality and identity of the graphics, the look and feel, all those things, but certainly the authenticity of that brand is what makes it sticky. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, visually it can be sticky, and all these ingredients in the soup can help make it be sticky. But the stickiest part of the whole thing is whether or not it's truly authentic to the person behind it.
Sure.
So, like when people meet you and they meet the person behind the brand, and they start to make the connections with the way the brand is portrayed on social media, and this is the way they talk on the website. Now I'm meeting the person,
Yep.
and it feels like one big consistent message. That's what helps it sink in.
Yeah. The experience of that, I'm sure. So,
Yeah.
who do you like love to work with? What kind of clients do you enjoy working with?
I love clients that are excited about their brand, and they almost to a fault. Like I want them to be excited and exuberant about what they're doing so that when we're creating the elements of the brand and connecting those dots and helping them build a strategy for it, that they're all in. They're
Yeah.
invested and they feel like we're on the right track.
Yeah.
Clients that, if they're just looking for a marketing company and I want you to check some boxes and I really don't care, just make sure it works.
Yeah.
That's more difficult because it's a moving target, and marketing is very much a moving target. It's a strategy. It's dependent on budgets. It's dependent on the resources and the collateral that you have backing it. So to have somebody vested versus not vested is a huge difference.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with my business. Obviously, like our service doesn't work if the client is not engaged and part of trying to solve things and communicating. So I definitely get you. Um,
Yeah.
Anything interesting that you're working on right now that you'd like to share?
Right now I've got a ton of projects going on. Couple different kind of branches of existing established companies locally that I think are kind of fun because they're almost an extension of a brand, but yet they're new.
Mm-hmm.
I would say one of the funner ones that I'm working on right now is we are working with, and it's actually a pro bono project. I got connected to a comic book artist
Oh, cool.
that he's got kind of a unique story, and he's had some tough things happen to him. And I'm just a fan of his work. I think I follow him on social media, and I think his message is great. I think his optimism is super cool.
Nice.
So I reached out to him a few months back, and I just asked him if I could build him a website. And he basically replied with, no thanks, I don't have it in the budget and whatever. And I'm like, no, I just want to build it for you for nothing. I just want to get it out there. I want to help you grow your business. So that's probably the most fun one we're doing right now.
Cool.
Just because it's just doing something nice for somebody else, and I think it's going to impact his business and his career.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just a feel good thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think the other one is that the Cyberdogz website. We are rebuilding it, and we've been close for a long time, but we're closer than ever to launching that. Hopefully within the next 30 days. It's leaps and bounds better than what we have out there today. I'm excited about it because it really speaks to the growth and kind of where we're at after 5 years.
Wow.
So it's pretty fun. But
awesome. Yeah, that's always fun to get a
yeah.
refresh.
Yeah,
And
it takes a while, but yeah, it's going to be exciting to get that launched.
and where do people go so that they can continue have a conversation with you about branding?
Yeah, pretty much anywhere. I mean, you can check us out online at cyberdogzmarketing.com, and it's CYBERDOGZ marketing.com,
Yep.
or on social media. We're pretty active on social, Facebook, Instagram specifically, but I'm also on LinkedIn, and people can find me. And just so people know, I mean, even though I'm the owner and whatnot, I'm pretty much answering and accessible to 99.9% of the communication. So they're not talking to somebody other than me. So
Nice. Very cool.
yeah.
Well, it was an honor to have you. Thank you for sharing your story and sharing your knowledge around branding. I know it's so important, especially right now, to really be able to understand what your voice is and get it out there in a meaningful way that people can connect with. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I think that's a wrap for today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.